Thank you to our webinar sponsor, Hormel Foodservice. With a dedicated team of direct food service experts, Hormel Foodservice is committed to providing consultation, innovation, and support to help ease the load.
Hello, and welcome to ACF Chefs Forum. We appreciate you all tuning in today for this webinar and hope you're ready to learn and be inspired as we shine the light on trends in healthcare food service. Thanks again to Hormel for bringing us today's exciting learning opportunity. We know it's important for culinarians to connect, to share, and to offer inspiration and mentorship, which is exactly why we're excited to have experts here with information just for you, the leaders of the food service industry. Before we begin, as a note, we want to hear from you. Please use the chat function to collaborate with other viewers and the Q&A function during the session to pose questions to today's ACF speakers. So let's get that conversation going in the chat. If you haven't already, please let us know where you're tuning in from today. I'm Jackie Pressinger, American Culinary Federation's Director of Strategic Partnerships, and we are thrilled to have a great panel of ACF chefs here who are working in healthcare and in senior dining to share their insights. I know that the chefs are ready to dive into today's discussion, so at this time, I'll pass the presentation over to Chef Jeffrey Quasha, CEC, CCA, AAC, Senior Director of Culinary Innovation at Morrison Healthcare. Thank you, Chef.
Oh, thank you, Chef Jackie, and thank you to everyone with the ACF and for everyone who's attending. It's exciting that, we get to geek out and have a great time and talk about, healthcare innovation and the trends that we're doing. And I have the esteemed privilege and honor of today introducing two fellow healthcare chefs who are absolutely driving the innovation and taking it up to the next level. We have Chef Gabriel Rosado and Chef Timothy Schoonmaker who are with me today. And we're just going to have a great conversation around what's happening in our industry from, three different levels of insights. So first of all, Chef Gabriel, if you could introduce yourself, tell us what you do on every given day and just give us some insight in what's happening in your healthcare world.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Chef Gabriel Rosado. I am the Executive Chef and Director for Hospitality and Nutrition Services with Hartsfield Village, also associated with the community healthcare system. And here at Hartsfield, I actually oversee independent living, assisted living, long-term care, and rehab hospitality services. So with that said, in our senior living end, which takes care of the independent living, assisted living, we really have the opportunity to take the culinary approach and really utilize our skills that we trained so hard on throughout the years and all our specialties and skills that we've been able to obtain and really kind of apply that to everyday cooking here with senior living. Now, we try to really introduce some new items, but of course, we certainly try to refine some of the items that they've been eating all their lives. And specifically in our rehab center, one of the challenges and goals that we actually have for this year is really elevating our food service from a nutrition standpoint, really more culinary medicine approach. And that includes presentation, that includes really trying to remove a lot of the additives, preservatives in our food and really kind of try to take an all-natural approach. So it's fun here with Hartsfield Village. I enjoy what I do and I get the best of both worlds. Have a pretty nice work-life balance for the most part and really get to utilize the skills that I love so much. So thank you.
That's amazing. A lot of people don't understand, I call healthcare chefs air traffic controllers. You mentioned rehab, senior living, acute care. A lot of our chefs are wearing 12 different hats. We're doing catering, we're doing fine dining, we're doing offsite catering, VIP events, we're making grab and go, we're running coffee shops. So it's really like being a convention service hotel versus, on top of it, being a hospital or an acute care setting. We also have Chef Timothy, and if you can go ahead and, introduce yourself and explain what you do on a daily basis.
Sure. So hello, my name's Timothy Schoonmaker. I am on the acute care side. So I'm running two facilities here on the west coast of Florida in Bradenton, Lakewood Ranch Medical Center and Manatee Memorial. I also dabble in patient transport, so a little bit on the non-culinary side. So I can deliver food and patients at the same time. 24 years now, I've been in healthcare food service. So I've seen the evolvement of really how we've taken food service here to really a different level. We've gone from not really taking a big step or importance focus really on what we're serving to that next level. Chef Rosado spoke about culinary medicine, and and food is medicine. That's something that really we're looking at now, and food isn't something that we're serving. It's part of the process to make you better, to help you feel better, for fuel, how it affects your mind, how it affects your overall well-being, not just for our patients, but for us. How do we help ourselves be at the top of our game, our staff, doctors, everybody that we take care of? We're putting out here between our two facilities 3,000 to 4,000 meals a day. And that, again, as Chef Quasha mentioned, it's catering, doctors' lounges, meals that are going off-site, cafes, grab and go. It's all kinds of interactions that we have. And it's almost a destination to a point. We have people that will come in just to eat food here because we are part of the community and they know what we're serving. And especially if we're offering a higher end room service, they're coming here because of the experience. So I know we're going to talk a little bit about hospitality,
Absolutely.
but that's really what we're doing.
Well, and that's kind of the theme of what we're going to talk about, because, we all know that there's a stigma around hospital food service, and, there's this inception or this mindset of an industrialized tray, and that, people talk about hospital food, or like I said, hospital food. It's like, no different than talking through child nutrition. And, one of the things that all three of us are currently working on is taking down that preconceived notions. And, not that I'm going to quote the bear, but let's poke the bear just a little bit. There's actually a quote, and it kind of goes back to 11 Park Madison, with Unreasonable Hospitality is a book that, a lot of us, or a lot of my team has actually been reading, and we've been studying 11 Park Madison. But recently in season 2 of The Bear, there was a quote around that there's a reason why restaurants and hospitals both use the word hospitality. And, I constantly quote, I love that quote, first of all, but there's a reason. We get 3 chances a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to create raving fans or have an amazing experience for our guests. Our guests are a captured audience, including what you just mentioned, Chef Timothy. We have caterings, doctors dining. We're really, because of the post-pandemic, we're feeding the frontline personnel, the people that are taking care of the guests, then we're taking care of their loved ones, and then we're also taking care of the guests themselves. So we get 3 opportunities a day. What does that term mean? Like, what is putting hospitality back into hospitals? What does that mean for you, Chef Timothy?
Well, I mean, it's exactly what you just said. It's we have 3 times, right? So actually, we have 3 times just bringing the food in, but we have 3 more when we're picking up, and probably a few more when we're in rounding. We are one of the few service lines that touches patients more than doctors and nurses. And we're the one thing that they have a choice for, and the one thing that patients look forward to. So when they can choose what they want to eat and it's good, then that creates a positive experience, which that goes back to well-being, it goes back to healing, and can get them better, quicker, and back to their normal life, normal routine. And even if you're not sick, if you're here to deliver a baby, or if you're here for, maybe it's just a elective surgery, perhaps, it's not a negative experience, so to speak. So the quicker and better your experience, the better and more hospitable it is. So, and also my chef here reminded me, he went on a cruise recently, and he said, I think everybody should go on a cruise. It was one of the best experiences I had. Everybody was fantastic. Food was great. People were great. And I said, well, your cruise was a lot cheaper than one night here. So how do we change that culture? And it was a big discussion we had. And that's what we should be doing. It's not cheap to be here, so let's make it the best we can.
And I think you made a really valid point about there when you talked about mother baby. When we refer to people, that go into a hospital and they're going to have a baby, usually that floor is called mother baby or labor and delivery. And we talked about this previously, if I'm looking at the data of the 1,100 hospitals that we manage on a daily basis, 73% of our patients are on 4 diets. It's 53% are on regular diet. And then when we start adding heart healthy, cardiac, low sodium or consistent carb, we come out to around 76% of our patients. That's not the sickest of the sick. If 53 to 55% of your patients are on regular diet, like you mentioned, labor and delivery, or they could be in for a minor surgery, or it could be a hip or a knee or a shoulder replacement. It's those day-to-day surgeries. Those types of patients are looking for regular food, and I think that totally changes the mindset of what the perception of hospital food service is. And Chef Gabriel, then right here, I know you mentioned to me, and one of the things that we've done at Morrison Healthcare over the last 12 months is we've eliminated the dirty dozen. A lot of things that have creeped into our hospitals during COVID out of necessity or need, and now that we're in a post-pandemic world, what have you done in order to deliver great food first within your operations?
Great question. Really, just we try to really cater to our clientele. The residents here choose to be here. This is their home, right? So with that said, we want to attempt to be everything for them. Sure, we serve anything from comfort foods to some elevated steakhouse options. So really trying to cater to those who choose to be here. And then on our rehab side is catering to those individuals that don't necessarily want to be here, but we certainly want them to have the best experience possible. So and again, sometimes it's gonna come at an additional expense. We certainly try to monitor that and take a reasonable approach, of course, and it's we're fairly successful for it because it all balances out in the end. And so taking that approach, making people feel really comfortable and catering to their some of their wants, not only their needs.
No, great answer. And you mentioned rehab, and for people who don't know, the rehabilitation side might be speech rehabilitation. It might be a traumatic injury, or it might be a transition that they had some type of long-term surgery and they needed to have a transition before they headed home. So we consider those long-term patients. The average guest stay is actually in an acute care hospital is about 2.5 days. But then you have extended stay opportunities where a guest might be there for 2 to 3+ weeks, and that's where you have to maintain the excitement of the menu, because like Chef Timothy was talking about, we have to drive those amazing guest experiences. So what are we doing about, we talked about labor, and we talked about, a lot of the culinary schools in the country, during COVID were shut down. And of course, when people graduate from culinary school, they want to go be on the Food Network, and they want to, be at a Michelin rated restaurant, or they want to, just go out and see the world. How are you guys trying to invest, one, in the staff that you have, and then also retain and develop and grow the future of the healthcare industry? Chef Timothy, what about you?
I think one is opportunity. So we're looking at the best opportunity we can provide for our teams. And a lot of that is just simply engagement. And setting those opportunities out for them. If you're new to the business, here's what you can expect. Here's what we do. Here are the opportunities. Even if food isn't something you want to spend the rest of your life in, here's something you can do. But if you are interested, here's how we can help you. Might be tuition reimbursement or further education that we can assist. So those are always good ways. The other thing is really using the knowledge that we have and the experience we have to help kind of facilitate that. So we have people that come in. This might be their second career. This maybe the pandemic had them, they lost their their job and had to look for something different. So they are here with us, and we're now teaching them a new skill, a new career, and they don't want to have another job. This is what they want to do through retirement. One of the other things that we have a culinary school right across the street here, and with their enrollment down, while it's a little disappointing, we work directly with them, and anything that they're doing, chapter meetings through ACF, anything that they have going on, we want to try and either join with them, partner with them. No programs yet or apprenticeships yet, but we'll take baby steps. I haven't been here long yet, so we'll take things as they go. But we have a lot of things we want to try to do to bring in people. We're also in a very busy, growing area here. There's 2 or 3 restaurants a week that open, and it brings a lot of people and a lot of opportunity. So the competition is fierce. So we want to show them, hey, this is a good opportunity and a good career path to follow. So that's kind of some of the stuff we try to do.
No, that's great insight. And and Chef Gabriel, for you, we had this conversation the other day about quality of lives. It's, I think the first time I transitioned into healthcare, I was home on Valentine's Day, and my wife looked at me and said, "What are you doing home?" She just wasn't used to me not being in a restaurant 17 hours a day, 7 days a week. What do you feel, or with your experience in the healthcare industry, what do you think are some of those opportunities? You just hired 2 recent chefs. How are you selling this career path to the chefs of the future?
Yes. So as far as what we're doing to take an approach to try and track some individuals, um, the ACF, certainly our local chapter, has really helped make a big impact. Um, networking with some of the top chefs in the area, we've been able to kind of communicate what a lifestyle in healthcare really is all about. And I think for the most part, the pandemic kind of gave some people a little taste of life a little bit, and certainly still those chefs still want to stay in our industry, but may be open to looking at a different direction, specifically in healthcare. And I'm very fortunate to have now hired 4 top chefs in our region. I'm very, very fortunate. I got a very supportive administration. And with that said, just trying to bring some of the ideas of a culinary approach. We still get to do exactly what we love, utilize our skills that we've kind of been working on for so long, but yet have a balance to that, and take a more work-life balance approach when it comes to healthcare. I've certainly seen a movement here in Northwest Indiana. So it's been very positive and successful for us. So I'm very fortunate in that aspect, to kind of attract some of those top chefs. However, with the students, having some of these top chefs on our team, we have a better opportunity to really train and mentor these students, and anybody that really comes into our kitchen, whether it's a change of career individual, or if it's someone young looking to get their foot in the door.
No, great answer. You guys are doing an amazing job of really building from the bottom up. And it's just a huge opportunity for us to continue to tell that story, not only in the culinary schools, but within the culinary industry of, if you're looking for, it's not 9 to 5, sometimes it's 6 to 6. But it's, a lot of times it's 5 days a week, and it might be the 4th weekend on. But, most of the time you're home for dinner. But at the same time, like Chef Timothy, you mentioned, we're wearing many hats, so you can be as innovative as you need to be. But then at the same time, you can scale it back. So, kudos to both y'all. All right, I'm going to switch the subject, and we're going to talk about elevating the dining experience, because I don't think a lot of people understand what's actually happening in the healthcare space. And, like I said, we mentioned this about the pandemic. Elevating the guest experience is, it's a captured audience. We mentioned this, it's more than 3 touches a day. It's that breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's a captive audience. They might be there for 2 or 3 weeks. So when special events come around, if it's Cinco de Mayo, it's Mother's or Father's Day. Think about if you're in a hospital and you're being served meatloaf and mashed potatoes, or you're given, what happens on Mother's Day when people go out for dinner? Well, why are they not having that same type of experience in our healthcare spaces? Or who says you can't do LTOs or promotions for patients? So I wanted to have that conversation with the both of you about, what are you doing around elevating that guest experience or that plate experience? And Chef Gabriel, you provided these images right here, and they are absolutely astonishing. Love them. I love your plate presentations, but if you could talk us through some of the things that you're doing, elevating that guest experience.
Yeah, so again, we certainly want their feedback as well, right? We certainly trying to pick their brains once they kind of come in. What are some things that you're used to eating? What are some things that you would like to see on a menu? We offer very wide variety of different options. We run a 5-week cycle menu, and week one, this round might not exactly be how week one is the second round. So we're constantly updating some items. We're taking resident feedback. We're trying to keep things seasonal, keep things fresh, and really elevate that presentation, because as we all know, everybody eats with their eyes first. And with the talent, with the skills that we have in our kitchen, we're able to kind of really put out something, such as these items here. And it really is breathtaking when it comes to the reaction of our residents. So, some people have never experienced something like this, and some people have, but are very surprised that they're getting this at a healthcare level, specifically in senior living.
I think it's a wow factor. I think what you just said just excited me because it's that wow factor. When that tray comes into a room, and we're talking about deinstitutionalizing the patient tray and treating it more like a room service tray at a fine hotel. And then the tray rolls in, and then you have that where you're lifting the dome. I still get excited when somebody crumbs a table or lifts a dome when I go out for dinner, but that's an experience. It creates that moment. And like you said, patients lying in a bed, they sit up, the tray comes in, the dome is lifted, and there's that amazing piece of salmon that's, properly cooked with that beautiful asparagus, and you have that amazing salad, and you can just smell. And
Yes, that
all of a
aroma,
sudden,
right?
there was that. It's not patient food anymore. It's not hospital food. It's just our food, which our food starts with great food. And I think that's what's happening in the healthcare. And you guys talked about it. So, you know, I think it's a huge opportunity for young culinarians to understand that this is the revolution that's happening. I almost call it like the renaissance of healthcare post the pandemic. But I think the opportunity is utterly amazing. But Timothy, like we've talked about this before. Do you have to we're working on a menu build right now. There's 144 different diets on it, but I think some people are afraid of the stigma of knowing what all the different diets are. Can you come into our industry and have never worked in a healthcare food service before? Is there that
Yeah.
opportunity for a restaurant chef to walk in and, set the world on fire?
Yeah, 100%. Diets are one thing. There's certain things you have to know, right? There's critical limits that we have to pay attention to, sodium, fat. But there's so many opportunities to be creative. And I know we again had this conversation the other day, but I always go back and I think about, when I look at menus, I think about my early days and going into restaurants and hotels. And what is one thing you do? You look at where you're at, what's fresh, what's in season, and you build your menus based on those things. So you might have, a 3-course dinner that has 5 or 10 things on it. And they're all locally sourced, they're fresh, farmers market, whatever it might be. And there is, just because you're in healthcare doesn't mean that goes away. We have limitations, right? We can't really come in and say, okay, here's what we're serving our patients today. But we can certainly do that in other areas. We could do that for catering. We could do that in our cafe. We could do LTOs like Chef Gabe has here. we could do so many different things in different areas. We can work with our local vendors and come up with all these cool things. That's where the creativity comes in. That's where it doesn't matter, what your training is. If you're a chef, you know what to do with food, how to pair flavors, how to, there's certain ways to cook, right? We have specific cooking methods. You use those. That's what you do to put together dishes. It's about the flavor and the experience. So you build it, you bring it to people, you tell the story through food. And healthcare is one of the best places to do it because we have a captive audience. We have people that we spend more time with than anybody. I mean, I spend more time with my team here than I do at home. These guys are more family than the family is because we're here together more. Especially if, a couple weeks ago had a hurricane come through. So we literally stay together for 24 to 36 hours. And you really get to know people then. So food is one of those things brings people together. You celebrate parts of life through food, and that's really where we just shine, so to speak. So
yeah, I mean, and I think there's also, one of the things that we talk about in healthcare is there's the white hat effect. A lot of times I wouldn't call it service recovery, but there's a recovery availability, and it's probably one of the most meaningful things that you can do in healthcare. And, we always talk about, I try to tell our staff, it's the first meal and the last meal that someone is potentially having, and what you do every day does matter. But then there's also, like I mentioned, the sort of service recovery aspect of it. There's a lot of opportunities when we're in healthcare where somebody isn't eating. It could be an oncology patient who just everything that they smell or taste just isn't happening. And that's when a dietitian or a doctor calls down the kitchen, and it's the chef who goes up to that room, and you're having that heartfelt conversation with a patient. And, those are the things, I mean, it changes you, it changes your entire mindset. But when a white hat walks on the floor, or it's a pediatric oncology unit or just a pediatric unit, and there's a mother, sitting next to their child who can't leave, they don't want to leave the bedside, and what can you do to get that child or that parent or that person that's lying in the bed, how can you get them to eat? And to me, that's why we do it. And, on a personal level, I am the patient, someone who was diagnosed with cancer 6 years ago, and living with cancer, that, we take this very seriously because, I am the patient in a sense that at any given moment, I could be the person in the bed that I'm hopefully eating in one of your hospitals or one of my hospitals, that we're having that amazing guest experience. And we actually outline some of the different aspects that a culinarian could go into. It's not just the sickest of the sick or acute care. There's so many avenues to get into. If it's, retail is everything that happens in front of the patient kitchen. There's catering. Some hospitals can do 14 to 17 caterings a day. They do fine dining. They do, black tie events and galas that are fundraising for the hospitals. These huge events that I've seen some amazing, molecular gastronomy done. They have long-term care facilities, retirement facilities. Some hospitals actually have childcare where they're actually aligned with like K through 12, and, Meals and Wheels. You're feeding the hospital staff, you're making your own grab and go, you have coffee shops, QSRs, and second points of services. So even if you're not necessarily on the patient side, you could still be in a hospital and running a QSR concept or a food truck, actually. A lot of hospitals are actually being able to, get to more guests more frequently by having food trucks go around their entire campus. All right. So, as a corporate R&D chef myself, we can't talk about food if we don't talk about trends. Data essentials, I geek out about it I think every different day. For anyone who doesn't know, there's 4 stages to a trend: inception, adoption, proliferation, and ambiguity. Inception is the actual trend, coming straight from the actual source. It could be that ma and pa Lebanese restaurant that is the original cuisine, where, adoption is the slight twist on the original trend. It becomes a little more mainstream. Proliferation is when it's starting to develop into a QSR standpoint. And then ambiguity, no offense, ambiguity is kind of when Wendy's got it, we're late. That's kind of the mindset there. Like if it's shredded ghost pepper cheese and it's at Wendy's, then we're late. At that point, it's ambiguous. But being in a healthcare setting, we also overlay generational trends. So, we're looking at the X, the Ys, the Zs, and the boomers and the millennials and how that relates to these trends. Now, you guys run cities. I mean, it's convention services. So how are you writing the menus of the future? How are you looking at, one, you're looking at your patients, but your residents are millennials, X, Y's, and Z's. You're all over the point when it comes to, generational sources or, who you have to feed. So Chef Gabriel, like, how are you building your menus of the future, knowing what's happening from a trend standpoint?
Yes, as far as the trends go, I certainly think this global cuisine is very important to implement in any healthcare setting. Um, we have a variety of clientele as discussed, right? In some of our hospitals, they're catering to physicians, they're catering to administration, the executive leadership, they're catering to a specific a group with allergies, and of course our staff, right? Our staff, we have to take I guess a better approach when it comes to kind of catering to them too, because yes, that's our labor and we want them to feel important, valued, right? So it's really important to take into account all the diversity, right? From everybody's background, religion, ethnicity, all those factors are very important to consider. So it's not necessarily, just taking a simple approach of this is just for everybody. We have to understand what our clientele is, or who our clientele is, I should say, and how we can really cater to them. So with that said, we kind of take an understanding of, hey, what do you like to eat, and really try to implement a variety of international cuisine. So specifically here at Hartsfield, we on our cycle menu, we have certain days of the week that are just expected to be an Asian day, are expected to be more of Italian, or something like that, and we certainly do try to implement some new trends, some things that we never served before. Sometimes they work out, sometimes we don't, or I'm sorry, sometimes they don't. And that's when we go back to the drawing boards and try to be creative again and do something a little bit different.
Great answer. And, we used to say American regionalism. We used to use that term a lot, especially in a culinary, not just in healthcare. But I think American regionalism is actually more global regionalism. So our patients, what their definition of comfort food is not apple pie anymore. It's definitely, if it's menudo or pozole, or, depending on where you are in the United States, it might be shrimp and grits, or if you're on the West Coast, like you said, it might be some form of, Asian influence. Chef Timothy, how are you adapting and taking trends and bringing it to the healthcare setting?
So I definitely think you have to know your audience, and understand what it is that they're looking for, prior to transitioning back here to Florida. Some of these flavors wouldn't probably go too well in Central Virginia. It was just the population and some of the ethnicity of that area, and that's something that, as a chef and a culinarian, that's a fun part of our job, right? We do the research, we know what people like, and kind of what level we can push it to. Maybe it's in the form of trying a new sauce on a chicken, right? Maybe adding a different spice to the beef just to see where it goes. Maybe you don't name it, but you just try something different just to see if it goes. Do they like the taste of it? Maybe it's something a little savory or a little sweeter than what they're used to, like an ancho flavor or a cocoa flavor on beef. Just something a little different to see how it goes. So we can try those different things, but we will try, like a bowl concept. So I chair a healthcare council where we looked at this data, and we tried different things. And there's a chef at St. Jude's. Him and I worked together. We came up with, I think it was 8 or 9 different bowl concepts, just using different flavors, different sauces, different bases. quinoa, rice, rice pilaf, mashed potatoes, garlic mash, just different bases, and then went from there. Gravy, barbecue sauce, a Korean sauce, and then different vegetables, raw vegetables, cooked vegetables, different spice blends, different proteins, some plant-based, just to see how it went. And, kind of went on this journey, so to speak, to see how it would be looked at, how it was adapted. And it's really interesting to see how you can really mold flavors and just pair things together. We probably created some new terms, but when you look at this graph here, it's pretty interesting just to see where cuisine is going. I think it's exciting personally.
Yeah, it's really exciting to me. Collecting trends is like collecting comic books or baseball cards, but you don't have to swing all, as you don't need to be on an inception and adoption all the time. You mentioned mashed potatoes, which is, ubiquitous, but you can take mashed potatoes and add global influences to it. And now you're mashing inception, adoption with ubiquity. And I think that's a huge opportunity, especially in the healthcare setting, when you're talking about like the boomer generation, is they want to be able to see on the menu, okay, it's a hamburger, but now is it a Korean smash burger hamburger? So you're driving trends, but it's still that ubiquitous setting. And, another thing that you talked about, which is, I think, a huge opportunity, is basic culinary fundamentals is definitely a key when it comes to creating food in a healthcare setting. That fond in the bottom of the pan, or that perfectly, all point cooked chicken breast that's going to carry over, or making, pan sauces. A lot of those basic culinary principles not only can be applied to meat, but can also be applied to vegetables, meat application on top of vegetables. What are you guys doing in terms of driving or replanting your menus? What does that mean to you in terms of the direction that we're going? Because we're seeing a lot of studies around how a plant alternative diet is actually helpful for like for cancer, for longevity between a relapse of a patient. How are you driving plant forward on your menus and helping, replanting your menu and sustainability? Chef Gabriel.
Yes, so I do understand that the big trend right now is plant proteins. However, that I'm not too familiar with the plant proteins so much. We really try to take approach of all natural. So when it comes to vegetable, just getting them prepared in a unique way, maybe adding a unique spice, grilling them, presenting them in a more creative way. Because yes, here it's important to offer balanced nutrition, and our dietitians make sure that we have a balanced menu for each day. However, just kind of taking our culinary expertise and creativity, and just to putting a little twist to that, to kind of really highlight an all natural product, specifically in vegetables, fruits, and incorporating them into even our entrees, specifically with fruits and different sauces and such.
Yeah, with all the trends, I mean, think about chimichurri. And then, instead of a skirt steak chimichurri, that could easily be, a portobello mushroom or pressed mai tai maki mushrooms. So I just think there's a huge opportunity. For years, the vegetable plate was whatever the chef had, whatever vegetables of the day. We dropped it on the plate and we said, here's your vegetable plate. But today, with the vegetarian, the flexitarian, and then with the push for sustainability and with our clients, there's just a huge opportunity for replanting your menu and driving plant first. What about you, Chef Timothy?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. So a couple of years, 3 years ago, I started to have some health problems and really started to look at what I was eating, and changed lifestyles, stopped eating a lot of meat in general, and started to look at what, more plant-based, what does that look like? And, not just vegetables, but how do you substitute center of the plate for a plant-based? And experimented with sauces, experimented with just different I'd go to the farmer's market, for example, and say, hey, you know, what do you have this month? What's different? What's in season? So, you know, in the fall months, different kinds of pumpkin. And what could I do with it? Can I grill it? Can I saute it? Can I roast it? And, you know, can I puree it? What can I put on it? Fresh honey. You know, can it be, again, sweet, savory? Can you use the seeds in it and toast those and do something different with them? Can you grind them, turn them into spices? What can you add spice wise to it? Became friends with a good purveyor who does all kinds of different spice blends. And we experimented with probably 10 or 12 different things and fresh blends that we decided to see how they paired with different vegetables. And it's really just a matter of trial and error. And so I kind of use that to throw things together. And instead of specific, you know, plant proteins, but using the vegetables, herbs. I love fresh herbs. That's really, I think, sometimes we just miss the mark on using fresh herbs the right way. I miss having an herb garden here. I have a mini one at home, but not quite one here at work yet. We'll get to that point, but I love using fresh herbs and just anything we can do with those, I think, is a huge opportunity to really take things up a couple of notches.
Yeah, I think those are all amazing points. And, you know, for us at Morrison Healthcare, I think we've really flipped the script on protein. You know, we start with vegetables first. You know, if you think about a bowl build with a half a cup of regenerative agriculture grains, or it could be quinoa or farro, and then you're infusing it with flavor, like you mentioned, with citrus and spices, and just before we ever add salt, we're adding flavor first, and then, you know, it could be 2 cups of vegetables, and then protein becomes 3 ounces of protein on top. Well, now you've got 2 cups of food, which is actually a considerable amount. It's an amazing bowl build. And, you know, another comment about bowls was, you know, before we weren't even able to get a bowl, I was banging my head like, why do we have to always put everything on a plate when most of our guests are eating bowls? If they're going to Cava or Chipotle, it's in a bowl. And if our guests are identifying with that bowl experience, then, you know, that's the same type of experience we have to deliver from a healthcare standpoint. So, yeah, great comments.
Can I add to that real
Yeah,
quickly?
absolutely.
Yeah, so I want everybody to really consider, I know purees, right, might be considered, oh, you know, that's just a particular diet. But honestly, you know, even in culinary school, early on in my career, you know, we utilize purees, right? So don't be shy to utilize purees for a regular menu as well. Specifically when you're including maybe, you know, sure, a parsnip puree with, you know, some nice whole roasted carrots or something, you know, as Chef Timothy stated, with herbs and nuts and maybe even some infused oils that'll kind of really enhance, you know, those flavor profiles on that plate.
No, and who said you can't? Like, you know, who can't says you can't start a dish with an amazing puree, which actually creates a buffer on the plate between the heat and then the protein. So if you're medium rare, you know, like undercooking that salmon and it's sitting on that parsnip puree with a little bit of wilted greens, the salmon will steam under the dome. And then you not only have that aroma effect, but you also are still continuing to carry over cook that salmon. So by the time it gets upstairs, it's almost got like a sous vide texture. So yeah, I think a lot of the things that we're doing in restaurants around purees, and, you know, plate presentation are now starting to carry over to a healthcare standpoint. But also another big piece of what's happening in the industry, especially from the QSR model, is technology. And I know we're close on time, but I think COVID, you know, COVID of course is negative, but COVID in some form accelerated the healthcare industry into the future in terms of, you know, bringing ghost kitchens and virtual kitchens and sous vide kitchens into our workspaces, our hospitals, like I mentioned before, our convention hotels. What are you seeing in your spaces around patient mobile ordering, or mobile ordering of, you know, the nurse sitting at the desk who only gets 30 minutes to order their lunch, pick up their lunch, eat their lunch, and get back, and it could be a 12-hour shift that they're working. What are you seeing in terms of technology and how it's incorporating into your spaces?
Yeah, I'll start on this one. We're using the online ordering for our cafes, and that really does help our teams to get the orders, so they don't have to wait in line and take some of their break time, because break time is important. You need that time off the floor, or that time to yourself. So that's one way that we're helping. The online ordering really is a huge satisfier. On the patient side, we're not quite there yet, but we are taking the tablets to the bedside if we're not doing if we don't have patients that are actually calling down to place orders. That's one thing that does help to ensure that we capture 100% of our patients ordering what they want instead of just sending something. So those are kind of cool ways. Not ordering wise, but we do utilize QR codes for our patients. When we round and when we bring trays, our patients get these cards with names and feedback QR codes, and it allows us to capture real-time feedback, good, bad, and different, whatever it might be. For 90% of the time, or 95% of the time, it's positive feedback we get, shouting out a team member, shouting out the food. And that's great for our huddles. It's great for engagement because we share that with our team every day at our huddles. And we also go back to our patients and say, hey, thank you for providing that feedback. We use it when we do our rounding. We use it for just about everything. And if it's not good feedback, then we use that as service recovery, as Chef Quasha stated earlier. And that gives us an opportunity to make things better for whatever reason it might be. So a couple of ways we use technology here.
And technology also partially takes out the human aspect too, because if you are on a modified diet, the technology will allow the person taking the order to make sure that they're not offering them, a guest. One of the worst patient dissatisfiers is being offered something that they can't have. If it's French fries, if you're on a heart healthy diet and then someone's like, you want a burger and French fries? Well, when the burger and French fries doesn't come up, there's a reason. And, I think that's definitely a huge opportunity to try to eliminate those guest dissatisfactions. And you mentioned QSR codes. It's a great opportunity. Imagine a menu, and on the bottom of the menu you have the QSR code, and then you scan it, and then a dietitian pops up. It goes to a link, and there's a video of the dietitian explaining the diet that you're on, and really going into what you can and cannot have, versus you being confused because you were put on a particular diet that you've never heard of. It's a huge opportunity, like you said, for feedback. What about you, Chef Gabe?
Yes, those are actually interesting points, and we're in the process of identifying, or looking to identify a new tray card system that can actually integrate with the EHR, so the electronic health record. So we're actually in the process, and I love the whole idea of the QR codes and simplifying, I guess, eliminating quite a bit of that time that some of those patients might end up spending on their menu selections. Specifically, we have some guests, family members that will come to visit the patient and assist with their menu selections. So with us, certainly going to transition to something of this nature, is a better system that can actually implement, bedside selections when it comes to the tablet, even that QR code. I certainly heard about this a few weeks back, and I'm thinking myself, like, that's going to certainly be a game changer, and these factors are certainly going to are here to stay in healthcare.
Well, I think
the technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's all great points. We could probably do a whole entire webinar just around what's happening from a technology standpoint, not just in retail, but also bedside. But just think of the power of a mother or a parent sitting bedside in a pediatric hospital, and now they have the ability to pick up their phone with an Insta-Eat app, with mobile ordering, and they can order a meal bedside, never having to leave the room, and it can be delivered to them, or they know at a specific time, in a specific window, at a specific cubby, they can run downstairs, grab their food, and be back bedside. Or if they wanted to, scan a QSR code in the on a patient tray, and then they can start planning what their child's meals or their loved one's meals could be, and then look at an actual picture of the food, no different than they would at Cava or Chipotle's or any fast casual concept. So I just think those are just amazing opportunities and points. Um, and lastly, I just think there's a huge opportunity from a healthcare standpoint of getting more out there. I think part of the stigma of that, we all talked about it in the beginning of this webinar, was this perception of healthcare chefs. And I think healthcare chefs are really, they're running full steam ahead with getting into different periodicals. And I just think as a whole, as us three representing the healthcare industry, that we just need to do a better job of getting into more periodicals, if it's a cooking show, or if it's an ACF article, or getting in front of culinary schools and telling our story. I think that story needs to be screamed at the top of our lungs, that this is an industry that's only going to grow. And with the boomers retiring, think about the millions of people that are about to enter retirement communities, and these communities cost from hundreds of thousands to $1 million a year for a guest to live in, and they want that elevated dining experience. And it ties everything that we just said together, that you don't have to have experience with knowing 144 diets. If you just know what great food is, and that's what you know how to cook, then you're going to deliver that amazing guest experience. So thank you, both of you, for having this webinar and hosting it, and sharing your expertise. And Chef Jackie, if there's any questions, or if not, we appreciate everyone's time.
Well, thank you so much. There are some questions, but I think that just speaks to that we have to do a part 2. We have to learn even more about what you're all doing here. So I thank you all so very, very much. And a huge virtual round of applause as we thank Chef Jeffrey, Chef Gabe, and Chef Timothy for an informative discussion about the future of healthcare food service, and really enlightening us on what you all are doing today as we learn more about all the different ways that you're expanding your menu. So we appreciate you taking this time to share your important insights on these dining trends. And of course, thanks to our partners at Hormel for their support in our education programming today. I hope that you will all be on the lookout for the survey that you'll receive in the next day or so, along with the recording of this session, which we hope you'll share with your teams. And you'll need to complete the survey in order to earn your 1 hour of ACF CEH. We hope that you'll join us for our next webinars. We will see you next week, September 19th, for a presentation on top critical healthcare violations and how to mitigate them, just in time for Food Safety Month. This will be presented by Ecolab. And in October, stay tuned to learn more about contemporary tarts with Noah Carroll, CMB, live from the Culinary Institute of America, presented in collaboration with the Retail Bakers of America, as well as some upcoming webinars on food waste. And we'll also virtually travel together to the Yucatan Peninsula for a demo on Mexican gastronomy. We had an amazing time this week at the Breakers in Palm Beach for the Advanced Culinary Summit, and we hope that you will all join us for the Advanced Pastry Summit to be held October 20th at Johnson Wales University in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's not too late to register, and these one-day summits have been selling out. This will be the last one held in 2023, so register today. You can visit acfchefs.org and click on the events tab for more information and register. We'd love to see you there, or if you'd like, please pass the information on to someone on your team. So again, on behalf of the ACF National Office, thank you again to our distinguished panel of guest chefs. Thank you so much, Chef, for moderating, and thank you all for tuning in today. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you on the next webinar.